Good morning, everybody. How are we all doing today? I hope everybody's okay out there and everything like that and having a good week. Some quick updates just to start off, like always. First up, Davninja's own Donna Schechter is teaching a special PADI Intro to Freediving course later on today. It starts at 4 p.m. Pacific time. There's still, I think, 1 or 2 spots available on it if anyone wants to jump in and learn about freediving. Then tomorrow we have a super special talk with Jack Fishman, the Community Conservation Officer at Project Aware. He's joining us to talk about the kind of crazy work that these guys are doing at Project Aware, where they're looking at, bringing divers and communities around the world together and all that to basically fix a lot of the big problems we have in the ocean. He's also going to be talking a bit about how we can get involved in marine conservation while we're stuck at home, quarantined and everything like that. So definitely a really cool talk to check out. Then over this weekend, we've got 2 very special conservation courses. On Saturday, I'm going to be teaching a Project Aware whale shark conservation course online. And then on Sunday, Ellen's coming back to teach a Coral Reef Conservation course. So if today's talk with Martin inspires you to learn a little bit more, definitely want to check those out. And today, like I said, we've got Martin joining us, who's one of the founders of Coral Guardian. He's joining us all the way from France today. So how are you today, Martin?
Right, I have to activate my microphone. I'm good, Jay. Thank you for the invitation.
Awesome, man. It's great to have you here and everything like that. Let me stop sharing my screen so you can share yours, and we'll get started.
Okay, is it working?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, perfect.
You can just close that out of your screen.
Okay. Okay, Jay, so I can start?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Ocean Stories, for the invitation. So let's try to make a nice story about corals and coral reefs. So first, let me tell you a bit more about myself. So I'm a marine biologist. I studied marine biology, aquaculture, marine ecology until master degree. Then I went to, I went in many internships doing coral farming, pearl oyster farming also. I worked in many aquariums, many different aquacultures also, in different conservation projects. Then my first job was in Indonesia. So I started with tropical coral and fish exports for aquariums. So we had a part doing breeding, and we had a part also doing wild fish and wild corals. So the job was to ask fishermen's fish and corals, and we were stabulating them in aquariums and packing them and sending them to Europe and US for public aquariums or private aquariums. So it wasn't, I mean, I didn't know what I was doing really, but I discovered that it wasn't really nice, and it was kind of legal poaching, let's say. And I wasn't really feeling really good with this job. So I decided to quit after a year, and that's where the idea of Coral Guardian came. It was to do the opposite of what I was doing before. Involving fishermen to protect the resource they depend on, so coral reefs. And what I was doing before is using them to harvest life that was going on the other side of the world for nothing, for no really meaningful reasons. So well, that's where Coral Guardian started. So it was in 2012. So I will explain a bit more what is Coral Guardian. But first, I would like to start with a coral and coral reef explanation for those who don't know about corals and coral reefs. So just a video to start. Quick video to show you how rich coral reefs are, and it's not just the bottom of the ocean, it's also the water. The water is alive, as you can see. It's full of fish, it's full of invertebrates, and well, it's important to start with this video. And then some facts about corals. So I was gonna ask why tropical water. So I put Indonesia, but tropical water in general. Why the water is so clear? Why we can see through? Why it's nice to dive in tropical water? Sometimes we can have 50, 70 meters, sometimes 100 meters of visibility. So it's because it's really poor in nutrients. In the water, you don't have nutrient that feeds the phytoplankton, so the vegetal plankton, that feeds the zooplankton, that feeds the fish, and all the food chain started with nutrients. So tropical water are really clear because there is no nutrients. So it's kind of desert water, you know, nothing. It's really like there is not so much life. But we saw in the video just before that it's full of life. So, well, that's the question. So second question is, what are corals? So they build reef, so they build stone, right? They build with the skeleton. And well, they are animals. They are animals because they have physiological, it works as animals, and they feed on other animals, but not only. And so the third question is, how do coral survive in tropical ocean? So we just said that it was really poor water in nutrients and in food then, but it's full of life. How this is possible? So corals, they adapt their, so it's millions of years of adaptation, and they adapt with a partnership with an algae that is living inside the cells. So this really small algae, it's microalgae. So there is billions and billions of them in each cells of the corals, and they do. So it's explained just there. So it's like it's not a nice draw, but it's really meaningful. The algae gives the nutrients and the oxygen to the coral polyp, and the polyp gives protection, CO2, because it's breathing, so it gives CO2, and all the metabolic waste to this small algae that we call zooxanthellae. And it works all inside the coral, and corals, they really need to feed really with few other sources from the outside. So they just need 20% from the outside. 80% of the food and all the needs comes from the inside, and we call it the symbiosis. So it's kind of a small miracle in tropical water, and that's why it's so rich in life. So then we will see the importance of coral reefs. So do you know the percentage that they occupy in the world ocean? So the ocean is more than 70% of all Earth's surface, and the corals, they cover only less than 0.2% of the surface of the ocean. So it's really, 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 really small surface, but they host. So the diversity in the biodiversity in the corals is 20% of all the marine species. So in the 0.2% of surface, you have 25% of all the species that lives in all the sea and oceans of the world. So it's kind also of a miracle of life, moreover in waters that are really poor in food. Then we'll talk about humans, because we depend on corals, and well, more than we think. So do you know how many people depend directly on coral reefs? Well, directly, it means that if there is no corals, those people, they couldn't exist, or they will have to move. So it's 275 million people depending directly on coral reefs. This is a lot. And then there is nearly 3 times more depending indirectly of coral reefs. Now we'll talk about the threats and the coral bleaching. So what is the coral bleaching? Coral bleaching is due to stress of corals. When they stress, for example, when the temperature in some area, for example, in Indonesia, when the temperature raises over 32 degrees, the temperature of the water raises over 32 degrees, the corals, they stress and they don't recognize the small algae that we were talking before as a host, but as a foreigner, and they just expel this algae and they get whites. But it doesn't mean that they're dead. It means that they they don't have any more food and oxygen source as we saw before. So they stress and they can die after 1 or 2 weeks if the temperature doesn't go down. And also the human activities locally. So coral bleaching is more global problems with CO2 emissions. And we have also local problems, for example, overfishing or destructive fishing, like dynamite fishing. We will see later some pictures of dynamite fishing impact. And then plastic waste also, and irresponsible scuba diving, but we can also say irresponsible snorkeling or irresponsible activities that you can do in the oceans. So, well, it's for sure an emergency, and we have to act now to protect corals, but other ecosystems also. But we have to know that we already lost 40% of all the reef in the world since the 70s. And according to scientists, we could lose 99% of all the reef in 2040. Doesn't mean that it will be all dead. It will mean that we will lose biodiversity, and it will be few species that will cover all the rest of the surface. So we lose all the fish biodiversity and invertebrate diversity, and so on. So let's go back to Coral Guardian. What is Coral Guardian? So you know the origins. Now, so the origins, so it's a French NGO, and that was founded in 2012. Our vision is to empower coastal community to preserve their ecosystem they depend on. So it's really meaningful for them, and well, we will see later how it goes. And our mission is to have concrete action on the field. That's what defines us. We really do action in the field, and also you will see some pictures later. So who we are? So Coral Guardian, I present, but we are a team behind that, and that's how it works. And thanks to the team, we can do the job we do that you will see. So I will introduce first the team in Indonesia, and then you will see where we work in Indonesia. But first, let's have a look at the team. So we have 8 people, mainly fishermen from a small village, and so there is 6 guys and 2 girls. Well, okay, so Ima is an English teacher, and Valentina, the 2 girls. So Valentina is a tourism manager, and the others, they do coral protection, coral farming, coral planting, biological monitoring, and so on. In France, we have the volunteer team, so the president, the secretary, and treasurer that you can see. We have scientific members, we have web designers, project managers. Well, we have a lot of skills and people that are giving their time. That is really important to show that also when you want to protect, you have to have also human energy to bring in it. It doesn't happen like this, you know. It has to be powered by humans. And the team, so the team that is working full-time in France, we are 4 and an internship, Florina. So where do we work? Where did we start originally? I told you we started in Indonesia, and you will see that we want to go in other places. But well, we started in Indonesia. Let's show you where. So maybe you know Flores Island. It's next to Komodo National Park. So Komodo National Park, normally the divers, they know by name. It's one of the best spots in the world to see small small diversity, but also really big fish. It's really known for these big currents, and well, it's an impressive place to dive. And we work outside of the park. So the small white line that you see is the Komodo National Park, the limit, and the red circle is where we work. So I put some pictures of Komodo National Park. So corals, and you can see that it's really rich, and you cannot even see the rock or the floor. It's just covered by corals. So we saw the red dot, Seraya Besar Island. So Seraya Besar Island is this small island, and the red circle you see, it's the village, the fisherman village. So it's here. So to tell you the story of those fishermen, they were sea nomads, bajos and boogies. They were fishing in some places and then packing and going somewhere else. Well, sea nomads. And during the Second World War, the Japanese came from the east and they chased them, and they had to hide in some small bays because they were killing all those fishermen. So they hide in this bay, but they stayed. They went. They stayed, and they started to build a house and starting to fish and stay. And well, they had like a sedentary way of life. So this is. I put also some pictures of the village. So this is a typical Bajo house with the pillar. Well, it's for the snakes, or to get a bit higher from the floor. They sleep on the top, and all the animals, and they stay below. So this is kids from the village. It's interesting. This picture is interesting. You can see behind a wall. You can see the wall on the left. It's a wall that they built 2 years ago because of sea level rising. They were protecting their houses. And well, they didn't know why it was happening, but they knew it was happening. So they just built a wall. Also, you can see the smartphone in the hand of the small girl. That is, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and they don't have electricity, or just genset 2 hours during the day, and well, they don't have network also, but they have they start to have smartphone also in the village. So this is the atmosphere of the village. Also, you can see the cemetery in the center. You can see the local house. On the left, you can see a concrete house also that is starting. People, they want to build concrete house, but it's not the traditional way. So it will be a different way of life to live in concrete house, but well, it's an evolution. This is Basrin. It's a fisherman that is preparing his line before going fishing. This is, so this picture is a bit hard. Well, it's a bit hard, but you have to know that those people, they just depend on fish. And the fish, they just depend on corals. So no corals, no fish, no humans. So they depend directly on corals. And for me, this picture is really powerful to show that, well, if the fish don't eat, the fishermen don't eat. So yeah. And some pictures of atmosphere, how they do fishing. You see on the left a traditional spearfish that they spear gun that they built themselves in the village. The fisherman with his kids with a small boat, and the guy on the right side is the guy that is waiting for the fisherman to collect the fish to sell the fish. He's a collector. So let's go back to the map. And so we had the village in the bay. Now you can see the small island. This is the conservation area. This is where the fishermen work to protect the coral reefs, where we have our conservation program. So this is the island you saw with Coral Guardian written at the beginning. So this small island is 60 meters long by 40 meters large. Is a really small island, but it has 50 hectares of coral reefs around that you can see here. And it's linked to the village because the village is just really close. It's like 5 minutes by boat, and it's a really good spot to fish and to harvest fish and to go really close and feed your family for the day. Well, that's how it works. So, but in the 60s, or well, after the Second World War, they started to fish with dynamite. So this is a picture of really low tide, just in front of this small island, really low tide. You can see the corals, they go out of the water during 10, 20 minutes. Here it's really nice. Also here in like 1 meter of water, really low tide, you can see small chromis and really nice acroporas. But also, as I told you, they were fishing with dynamites, and dynamites is really a big problem because it breaks the architecture of the reef. The reef is solid, and corals grows over corals, and they keep a solid structure. But here, they just broke all the corals in apart, and it makes rubbles with sedimentation, and it's really hard for coral larvae to settle and to grow. As soon as they grow a little bit, the coral rubbles, they move and they hide this small coral, and it suffocates and it dies. So you can see this was fished with the dynamite 30 years ago. Also this. So now the question: how we do with Coral Guardian? What is our model to preserve corals? I can say. So we have three axes. The first one is participatory marine conservation. So it means that that is the action we have with the fishermen in the field, involving them in coral protection. We use coral restoration as a tool for raising awareness to them. Then they can protect a wider area. Also, they can set up marine protected area, small but locally managed and really well protected because they are full-time on it and they really defend it. And involving the kids, teaching them English for tourism if they need it. Well, it's really like a local actions with the fishermen to empower them, as we were saying in our vision. The second axe is raising awareness. So on those pictures, you can see local people, but it's raising awareness also wider globally on the planet to everybody, because as we saw before, the problem is also CO2 emissions. And this is not because of Indonesian fishermen. Of course, it's because of everybody. And so we need to understand, and that's why we raise awareness through, we have many toolkits to give to people if they want to raise awareness in schools or in dive centers or whatever. Well, people have to understand that we have to minimize our CO2 emissions if we want to have nice coral reefs in 50 years from now. And the third axis that is also really important is the contribution to scientific discoveries. So we ourselves study the increase of our areas of conservation, of transplantation and the corals. We also monitor the fishing from the village. So we have a social survey. We have 10 fishermen that are interviewed for a week. It's always the same fishermen during a week, every month. And we ask them where they go fishing, what do they fish, what do they eat, what do they sell. Well, all those questions that will be important later to explain so what's going on. No, if in 3 years they just eat chicken, then it's because there is a problem with the stocks. Or if maybe in 10 years they have less fish but bigger, it's also a good sign. Well, it's this is local science, but we also have we also want to participate to PhD or other longest and laboratory research about coral physiology and how it can help for humans also. Well, so this is what we are starting to do. So this is the 3 axes: local conservation, awareness raising, and scientific discoveries. That's what we do. That's what we focus on. So now let's talk about a little bit about what we did on the field. We could officially open a marine protected area of 1.2 hectares. 1.2 hectares, it's not really big, it's small, but it has the advantage that it's easy to protect. And if every fisherman village could set up a marine protected area that they manage of 1.2 or 2 hectares, then it's replicable and it's easy to make, well, to replicate the project and to have many small marine protected areas, and then it works. And the fish, they can move from protected areas to others, and it has also a good it's a good point for fishing also. It's a good way to set up rules for fishing. Then let's talk about coral harvesting. We often have the question, how do we harvest the coral? Where do we get the corals from? And do we go and destroy the reef to get corals? So no, we don't do this. At the beginning, we were harvesting corals that were broken on the seafloor. So most of the time on the rubbles that you saw, and it was broken by anchors of boats or fins of divers or snorkelers or others. Well, but we harvested those corals at the beginning and we transplanted them on structures. They come from 200 meters from the restored area. So it's really important to harvest corals close from where they will be transplanted, because every reef, they have his own particularity, currents, sea, water, temperature. Well, everything is different. If you move like from 1 kilometer to another reef, you will have different species and different type of biodiversity. And then you can see on this picture and on the next one that we plant corals, they grow on our structures, and then you can harvest from the structures. So you have mother colonies that you can frag, and then you can take the fragments, and then here you can see Stylophora, it's the genus, and then you can on this Stylophora you can do 5 or 6 new frags that you can plant on new structures. Then comes the coral planting. So you can see here we have different way to do it. We tried monospecific structures, so we plant just one species to see how it goes, and other tables like this one where we decided to mix the species. When you mix the species, corals, they grow faster because there is competition between species. So it's interesting to see this also. And then when the structures are at the place where they will stay forever, the team is monitoring some corals, witness corals, every month to see the growth rates, to see how many fish comes back also on the structures, to see how many corals die or not. Well, if there is a bleaching event, and well, it's important to follow the health of the corals. Also, we improve. Here you can see we improve our methods. Here you can see it's just iron. Iron, it's rust. After 10 years, you don't have any more iron. But it's heavy, and also we try to lower the cost and make something more ecological. So we started to try bamboo for already 2 years. This year we start to have the good results. You can see here. So we have one line is metal, and the perpendicular one is bamboo. And the bamboo stay 3-4 months, but the corals, they can attach to the metal and then grow, and they don't need the bamboo anymore. So it was just an example to show you that we always improve our methods, because it's coral reef restoration is brand new. It exists for already 50 years, a bit more, but it's a brand new experience. Then we were talking about the social survey that we do with the fishermen, and what we want is the data that we acquire, we analyze those data. That's what we are doing now with Florina that you saw, the internship. She's analyzing the data, and then it's a good way to improve what we do, to make it stronger, so make it better, and to make a link between the environment and us, the natural environment, and our impact, our direct impact. And we will soon have scientific paper about the social survey and fishing survey that we have. So here it's a nice picture of the team. Well, the big point in what we do is to have a strong and motivated team. They work full-time, they have a full salary, they are well, full-time on the island. There is always somebody on the island, always 2 people minimum. So they turn, and because they have to protect the island all the time. If there is people coming with cyanide fishing, for example, it doesn't make noise, can be done at night, and well, they have to protect. So they are here. You can see also the Coral Guardian boats behind, and yeah, this is pretty much the team is. So you can see here 7 people. Ima is staying in the big city in Labuan Bajo, and well, and you can see in the middle Valentina. Then let's talk about the results. So the results that we have. So you can see here on the left, witness area. So it's the witness that it's an area that we did not restored. It was destroyed, and it wasn't restored. Normally, so second part is the restored area 1 and restored area 2. Normally, we should have also witness area not restored but healthy, but we didn't find any. Well, it was all destroyed on the island, so we couldn't have the monitoring to monitor an healthy reef next to those areas. So this monitoring is done once a year by transect lines, and we count the fish only on the corals. So you can see in the witness area, in the first year we have 18 species, and in 2019, so last year September, we have 16. So there is no evolution. Well, it's staying the same. If you see the restored area 1, we go from 13 species. That was pretty much less than the witness area. And in 2019, you can see 81 species. So there is an enormous growth of fish are coming back, and different species also are coming back. And the area 2, 25. So it was richer at the beginning, but you can see it's nearly 100 species that we have in 2019. So it's pretty impressive. And then, so this is a graph, and it's important to show you numbers, but also it's important to show you pictures, because pictures talks more than graphs normally. So this is, as you saw on the graph, September 2015. Then 2016, 1 year after, 2 years after, 3 years after, and 4 years after. Okay, so this is 2019. You see corals, well, full corals, as we could see in the Komodo National Park. You cannot see the bottom anymore. And also you see the fish. Well, it's full of fish. And before it was like this. Then another spots. Well, here you can see until 2018. And then I have videos to show you, because videos, it's even so yeah, you can see how nature can come back really fast if you help. So well, this is it is called active conservation. So you protect, but also you restore. But you have also passive conservation. You protect and you let nature do the thing. And this is longer. It takes more or less 10 years to start to have results, instead of a few years, like 2-3 years. But as I said, coral conservation, coral restoration, it's impossible to restore thousands of hectares like that. To give you an example, we are on what our sites, it's less than 800 meters square restored area, and the areas around there are like hundreds of hectares that are destroyed. So you can see that we are far from the results to restore all, but it works with the team. They see the local fishermen, they see how fast with their work, how fast nature can come back, and fish can come back. They see the fish and they say, oh, okay, so when we protect, we have fish. So yeah, it's a good way to do it. Then here on this picture, you can see a fisherman. So he's doing maintenance, taking corals that are at the bottom, planting them back on the tables, or well, checking if there is no parasites or acanthaster. Here you can see nice tables also with different species. It's a mix of Seriatopora and Acropora that are here. I think it's like 1.50 meters deep. It's not so deep. That's why they grow really fast. Those corals can grow. The Seriatopora, they can take 1 centimeter per month, and those Acropora, they can take maybe less, like 0.8 centimeter per month. So it's really fast growth. As sometimes we think corals, they don't grow really fast, but they do. Also, we have small sharks. So we had like black tip sharks. We didn't have in 2015. The island was really like a dead island. And since they protect, we have So they were starting to come back in 2018. In 2019, they were dozens of them. So they go in the shallow near the reef to protect them, and well, it's a really good sign of a healthy place. It means that there is also prey for them, and well. Then let's talk about diving, because Komodo is a really nice spot to go diving. The divers that wants to see crazy things with clear water and crazy coral reef, they go there. And the activity of coral planting is a really good way to raise awareness for them. Then when they go in the park, they be careful with their fins, and they know what are corals. They maybe tell the captain not to throw the anchors, because sometimes there is captains that are throwing the anchors. And well, it's a good way to raise awareness, and it's also a good way to finance well, the conservation project in Hatamin, in this island. So divers and snorkelers also, because it's in really shallow waters. Snorkelers are really welcome to go there and plant corals with the team. That's what we are starting. We started last year. It's really small groups, less than 7 people, and you have an explanation about corals, as I do, a little bit, well, a little bit like biological information and ecological information. So, and all the divers that came and planted corals, they were really happy of the experience. Yeah, so the experience that we accumulate for the last 9 years, because there I told you about the project we have in Flores, but we have many before in Bali, in other different islands, where it didn't go really well because of the environment or of the people that were already full of tourism, and they didn't need to protect, because even with a dead coral they could make money. So it's important to accumulate all this experience and make like a retrospective and see what we did until today. So we transplanted 38,000 corals. That is a lot. And we created a marine protected area. We could involve fishermen that are really happy to and really involved in this job, and they are now recognized by the Indonesian government in Jakarta. It's stable jobs that also we help financially. We finance those jobs until they get autonomous with tourism or other financial alternatives. And we did also many events and awareness events in France or in Indonesia or in other parts of the world. Well, we start to have a good experience in coral conservation in general. So then it leads us to the next point, is the transmission of what we learned and how we want to transfer the knowledge. So we started to set up a concept that is called the Blue Center program. So the Blue Center program is theoretical and practical training. So we are now ending with the manual. So it's a manual that is taking all our knowledge, and so about coral conservation, coral restoration, social, also all the social science, or how to involve people, because it's not an easy way to involve people. I think it's the hardest way. It's the hardest part. Doing coral conservation is, well, doing coral restoration is not easy, but when you know how to do it, then it works. But involving humans, it's always difficult. It's always, you always have problems. It's never win. Like you cannot say, it's okay. So we have the team and now they're gonna do the job. And no, it's always you have to always have an attention and keep training. And well, so what we do is now we open for the Blue Center call for projects. So people in the world, if you have an NGO and you are motivated and you want to have support from our experience, you can fill the application that is online on our website, and then we read and we select a project or not. So we decided to have two types of supports. So the hot projects that we call is full support, like in Indonesia. We really help on the long term. And consulting projects is if you have a problem on 3-4 months, we can help, and then you're autonomous. So the next steps for us from the Blue Center, so project that we already identified is, so we have one in the Mediterranean Sea, in Spain, in South Spain. Mediterranean Sea is really interesting. It's a different ecosystem with different corals, but it's the same problems: fishermen, corals, and sea resources. So we hope and we are looking for sponsors that would like to help us with the financing of this project. And also we have in the Caribbean Sea in Colombia. Also different ecosystem. The Caribbean ecosystem is really interesting. There is less species, but it's totally different. And also the fishermen is totally different than Indonesia. That is totally different than Mediterranean Sea. So the knowledge is going forward. We every new place that we develop is more knowledge that we get and that we can transfer to others. So we are in sharing what we know. So same for this project, we are still looking for sponsors. It was going good before the virus, before Mars, and then it was really hard to find new sponsors to finance those projects. So well, we work hard to develop that. Also, we have way to help, like how you can help. So from the beginning, this is a program that we have since the beginning, is Adopt a Coral. So when we started the NGO, we couldn't get the public money because we had to have 3 years of existence, like the NGO. So we didn't have 3 years of creation, so we couldn't get this money. Companies, they were like, you have to do something first and then you come back. So we were okay, so how do we start? So we decided to do coral adoption. So it's on our website. It's 30 euros and every people can adopt a coral. The team in Indonesia plants the coral. Then we send you a certificate with the coral, the species, the person that planted it, and the GPS points. And you can give the name. If you want to make a gift, you can give the name. So this is how we started, and we could start our first project with small budgets, but we could do it. And then we came back to companies and say, okay, let's work together. And they said, okay, let's do it. You did the first step. Now let's do it. So that's how we started with Adopt a Coral, and it's still working. And we really like this this program because it's also awareness for people, and it's also a way to see where goes your money. When you give, then you know that you have something, and it's alive and it's growing. So you are part of something bigger, and it's a beautiful gift. So I would like to thank you. Well, I think there will be questions. I'm here to answer the questions.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. That's really, really interesting. Very great to see what you guys are doing and to see the benefits, like actually the photos and videos of the transformation over the last few years is just mind blowing. It's incredible work you guys are doing. Super, super cool. So guys, we'll open up the Q&A. If you want to click the Q&A button on the screen, add in any questions you want, and then we can read them out over here and get Martin to answer them. We've got a few coming in already. The first one from Gillette says, thanks for all the great information. It's very inspiring to see what you do. I especially like how you talk about the locals. Do you guys take volunteers at all?
So this is a really good question. We were thinking to develop our economic model with volunteering, but it was really hard. We are an NGO; it's not our job. So we started to do it in 2017, I guess, and it was really hard for us to manage conservation project and tourism. So we decided to stop. But it was a success. I mean, all the people that came in missions. So it was 1 week on the field with the local. So nobody from France, just the locals that we trained and the volunteers. And it really worked really well. But we couldn't handle this job from France. Well, they did all the tourism work. So we decided to give it to a special company that are doing like ecotourism to organize, but we keep the field work. I mean, it's the same vision. You go on the field with the locals, but it's not organized by us. It will be organized by tourism companies. We already found 2, and it will be on our website really soon. But I think the season in Komodo for this season with the virus and everything, it won't be possible this year. I think it will be for next year if it starts again.
Awesome. Really cool. Jose LaRose says, thanks for your great talk. I recently read a scientific article about lab-evolved algae that is not ejected by the coral at higher temperatures. Have you seen this? What do you think about strategies like these for protecting coral? Also, how is coral bleaching in Indonesia in general?
Okay, can you repeat the beginning of the questions?
Sure.
The algae.
He recently read a scientific article about a lab-evolved algae that is not ejected by coral at higher temperatures. What do you think about strategies like these for protecting coral?
Like what strategies? Like what?
Like developing like a new form of algae in a laboratory that is not ejected.
Okay. Okay, I understand now. So they call these super corals that are corals that can live in higher temperature. So I have you can think in 2 ways for this. You have 2 answers. You have the first answer is nature should adapt to humans. So we do whatever we want, but corals, they should adapt, you know? Well, I don't think it's the right answer. I mean, I'm more about we have to adapt to our natural environment and stop destroying everything you know, I mean, I don't think it's a good way to think that corals will adapt to us, and I don't think it's possible either, because scientists, they work on 10 species that will be resistant, but you have hundreds of species of corals, so it means that you will still at the end have less species, so you will lose diversity. And well, I'm more the one from those who thinks that we have to adapt to the corals and do what we have to do to make them better in their environments, you know.
Awesome.
It's a bit of playing sorcerer, you know, like adapting nature to us. So yeah.
Awesome. So
And
Michelle
yeah,
asks,
and the second part of the question was bleaching in Indonesia. We had big bleaching events nobody talked about, even on the Great Barrier Reef. Nobody really talked about this, comparing to 2016. But Australia and all the Pacific and Indo-Pacific, so Thailand until Philippines, they had a big bleaching event from November to January, February, even the beginning of March.
crazy. Has the corals started to recover from that? Like, has they recovered from the bleaching event?
Yeah, some yes, some not. It didn't happen. So this meets also the question that we had before. The corals that we have on our nurseries and on the structures and the restored corals, they are more resistant. I mean, that's what we see when natural colonies around dies. Our corals, they stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really know if it's because it's the structures that is a bit higher from the bottom, or the corals with the fragging, they are stressed and they are used to stress.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is something that they saw in aquariums. For example, in aquariums, they frag, they stress. The temperature is always changing. So the corals, they get resistant. But we don't know if they get resistant on many generations, or, you know, or it's just this one that is resistant.
That's really interesting. Really, really interesting. It'd be.
But well, I don't have the answer, Jay.
Yeah,
You know, like I really want to say that I don't have the answer on this. I just tell what I know and what we see in the nature. But well, yeah.
No, it's really interesting. It'd be interesting to see a study done on that, on whether it over generations does it the coral get stronger and all that from the fragmentation and these kind of things and the stressing and all that.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to see. Awesome. So Michelle asks, how has COVID-19 affected your work, and why did your work take you to Indonesia in the beginning instead of another part of the world?
So I begin with the end of the question. I went to Indonesia because that's where I found my job at the beginning. I ended my master in marine ecology, and then I found this job in Indonesia. That was a job with aquariums, and so I went to Indonesia. But it could have been Philippines or Thailand or other Vietnam. I don't know where there is export, or Australia, but it was Indonesia. And COVID-19 is so. If we talk about the work on the field, fishermen, they cannot stay home because of COVID-19. If they stay home, they die because they have to go fishing. So life is running in Indonesia. Well, for those fishermen, the island is close to their village, so, and there is no risk to get contaminated by tourism because there is no more tourism. So if they stay in the village or go to the island, well, they work. The problem that we saw is dynamite fishing came back since COVID-19 because nobody went out, no tourism on the nice spots where there is fish, no police, no control. So, and this is worldwide. Like in some places, people are starting to start again to do some destructive fishing, it would be interesting to see in the world for different type of fishing, for example, sharks or whatever. But for corals, I know that people started again dynamite fishing. It was pretty bad news. But well, fishermen, they keep, for our team, they keep protecting the place, they keep planting corals. Well, then it affects us in France with the money running the NGO. you know, like you have less donation, and this is obvious also. So this is something that is pretty well. We have to pay attention and be careful, but yeah, there is the work is the. I mean, we keep the work. Our work keeps going, and the corals, they don't know about the, you know, about the COVID, and well, you have to keep going the same way, protecting, and yeah.
No.
I don't know if I answered the questions.
No, yeah, it's great. We've seen it here, even in Cabo, the uptake in illegal fishing and these kind of things, and reports of, you know, illegal shark fishing or mobula fishing and all this kind of stuff is kind of, you know, when you don't have when you're, you know, the enforcement on the water to watch and these kind of things, people
Yeah.
are gonna, you know, exploit that. You know, they're gonna take advantage of it. I think that's something, you know, everyone's kind of been saying on, you know, nature's getting this break right now and everything, which it is to an extent, but there's also a lot of people that are exploiting that break at the same point in all different environments around the world.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
It really is. Awesome. Sue says, awesome work. I have a question about coral planting. Do you have any thoughts on how to ensure that the diversity of coral species is preserved? I heard that there is a concern for coral planting that it may favor the fastest growing coral species, potentially at the expense of slower growing species.
Yeah, that's true. Well, everything is true in what Sue said. It's Sue, that's right.
Sue, yeah.
Sue. Well, so I think I said it in the presentation, but we don't do coral restoration to restore as before. Again, I repeat, because it's really important, but we do it as a tool to raise awareness. When you restore 800 meters square of reef, that is a huge work, but it's nothing in surface. Well, nothing. It's big, but it's compared to all the reef in Indonesia. It's a way to raise awareness to the people that will protect a wider area, you know. But you lose biodiversity, of course, because when you plant, I think until today we transplanted a bit less than 60 species of corals. So we don't plant, we cannot transplant, for example, encrusting corals, because you cannot harvest them broken on the bottom, you know. You have to break on the natural colonies, and this we don't want to do it. So we don't do it to get back to the original or to the natural reef. We do it to give an example, to show that nature can come back really fast if you protect and if you help. And it's a way to go faster. You know, if you go with fishermen and you say you have to protect this area for 10 years, you don't move, they will don't understand, you know, like what's the plan. So it's the way to make it faster, to make the understanding faster, and it works, but you get less diversity, and it selects the corals that are stronger. And yes, this is for sure.
Awesome. And Christine asks, she says, wow, what an amazing project. I'm curious on how does the Coral Guardian handle illegal fishermen that may sneak in at night and use cyanide to fish or ruin the reef? Can they find them, or do they have policing or anything like that?
Yeah, so this is also a good question, but okay, so it's the fishermen, they know fishermen, you know. It's like it's kind of something. So fishermen is a job that is really hard. It's one of the hardest in the world, you know. There is kind of also in every village there is like solidarity between fishermen. They know all the villages around. They know all the history about bombing. Whose village use cyanide? Whose village use dynamite? Whose village use nets? On the, you know. So yeah, and then they were practiced. They know this kind of those techniques because they were doing it before, you know, like 20, 30 years ago, and they know exactly when there is a guy that is doing cyanide, for example. They see a light underwater at night and they go straight, or they even go before. And also they speak, all the fishermen, they speak between them, and all the fishermen of the region, they know that here you cannot do it because it's a protected area and there is fishermen protecting, you know, it's not police, or it's fishermen that are protecting. And I think it's even better for the protection that when you're a fisherman and you want to go somewhere and destroy, you know that there is other fishermen protecting. So they give the example also, you know, there is something like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it also, you know, I can protect, I can, you know. So yeah, it's a small world. Everybody knows everything about everybody. It's pretty impressive. One day I was talking with a fisherman and he told me, you know, this boat over there, he comes from this village and they fish like this, you know, like, and sometimes they go with cyanide. They know everything. So, but it's something that you have to practice. You have to get along with them and talk, and then you understand how they work together. You know, how they communicate. Yeah.
No, it's really interesting. And two, I think the way you guys are going about it with having the local fishermen there, then, you know, in a way the other local fishermen would respect them and respect what they're doing. So they may be, you know, more apt to not, you know, destroy those areas or go into those areas than if it was just the police saying, no, you can't fish here. It's like totally different dynamic. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's incredible. Like that for me, I think is you know, way more powerful than anything police can do or something like that, because it becomes a cultural thing, you know.
And we never said to fishermen, you cannot fish here, or this is a marine protected area, you cannot fish. No, it was their initiatives. We were, okay, is it possible for them to put buoy line and to tell all the fishermen not to come fish here? And they were like, of course. You know, so we didn't say this is forbidden area for fishing or whatever. They said, okay, we want to do it, and we want to protect the restored area and many more. And so it's not just fishing, it's also tourism boats cannot enter, nobody can enter, just people swimming that were talking with the team before, you know, they know they know what they're going to see and how they have to behave.
Oh, that's great. Awesome. Jose asks, could you talk a little bit more about your upcoming projects in the Mediterranean?
Yeah. Well, it's this is something I really it's something I want to do since the beginning, since I created Coral Guardian, because I'm from Marseille, and so it's on the Mediterranean border in France, Mediterranean coast, and it's really close also, because when we talk about CO2 emissions and we talk about traveling to Indonesia every year, you know, so sometimes it loses a bit sense when I talk about me, not about the fishermen in Indonesia, of course, but for me, it has a lot of sense to do it in the Mediterranean Sea. Then I was looking also for something in France, but we didn't find yet. But until today, it's the Spain project that is near Malaga in the south Spain. It's a really interesting project with an NGO that is called Equilibrio Marino, and the project is called SOS Coral. And yeah, it's really interesting because there is a lot of nets on the bottom, you know, that we have to so cleaning the bottom and doing a bit same as Indonesia, but it's harder because it's deeper. You have to dive. You cannot do it snorkeling or free diving. You have to go in 30 meters and plant corals and harvest corals. And you deal with local fishermen from the Mediterranean Sea, fishermen that I know. I know the culture, you know, so it's closer from our culture. And Mediterranean Sea also is it crystallizes all the problems. You know, you have humans problems, migration. You have so this is also a big problem. You know, how to manage this pollution also, because all the countries there around Mediterranean Sea, they pollute in this small sea. Fishing. Everybody fish tuna in Mediterranean Sea to sell to Japan. There is quota, but nobody knows. There is a bit of mafia. Mediterranean Sea is a really interesting sea. It still have a lot of biodiversity. It needs to be protected, and that's what we want to help for. So yeah, I think I answered the Jose questions.
Yeah, perfect. Actually, following up from that, Jose says he did the Adopt a Coral program you guys run with his mom, and then another with his girlfriend, and then later they were able to actually visit Indonesia and find the actual corals that you in place and everything like that. He said, "Amazing work, keep it up."
Okay, nice. Awesome. Thank you, Jose.
So then we only got time for maybe 2 more questions. So let's see. We got Victoria asks, do you know any negative impacts on the marine ecosystem from the iron and plastic structures that hold the coral fragments?
Yeah, this is also a good question. So when Victoria said plastic, it's about the zip tie, I guess. Mm-hmm. What is she said? Plastic also, no? Iron and plastic.
Yeah, she said iron and plastic structures.
Okay, so we started with plastic with the zip, you know, the zip, the cable tie, or I don't in English. Mm-hmm. But we stopped. So you saw on the picture that we were putting bamboo, but also we use metal for wire. We use wire to attach the corals, and it works really well. Then for the metal, for the rebar, we use construction rebar. So it's really why do we use construction rebar? It's simple. It's easy to build. It's cheap. It's you can find everywhere. You don't have to order from the other side of the world. You know, like everywhere you are, you have this kind of equipments. You need a welder, so there is often a welder, or you can learn how to weld. It's not that hard to weld those tables. We call them tables because they look like a table with a foot and it's flat. You can plant more or less 100 to 150 corals on each structure. And the metal, we don't have any studies about the iron that we put underwater, but it's really, again, it's really few, it's really a little quantity compared to oceanic water, you know, like it's really few, and it's metal, you know, so it's fer, Fe, you know, so but we don't have any studies about how it affects the environment.
Okay. All right, and then we'll do one more question before we wrap it up for today. Michelle asks, do you have any plans for other coral areas, like say in Puerto Rico, or where the hurricanes have recently affected them, or where there was military testing with bombs, or any other places in the world? Or are you guys mainly focusing on Indonesia and the Mediterranean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question also. It's really hard to find so what we did in Indonesia, we started from the beginning. Nothing was there, an island, a village, and we started from the beginnings. setting up local NGO, finding the team, training the manager, bringing all together, and coming back every year. And we decided to now not do it like this. And this is the plan of the Blue Center. I'm going to put the... so we want to start with local NGO that already exists and that have the wish to start a project. And with a local local person that is that have a lot of motivation to do it. And just those two things, it's already hard to find projects that have those two things, you know, like a structure and somebody. But we, until today, we just found those two, Caribbean and Mediterranean. But we are open to others, of course, and that's why we have this application online, and anybody can go download and fill it. But you will see you have a lot of questions, and it's a first step of selection, of course. But we are open to others, to other projects, of course.
Awesome. Oh, it's really, really awesome. I'm going to throw the link to your guys' website into the chat for everybody so they can check it out and anything like that. So it's about all the time we've got for today. Martin, thank you so much for coming by today. It was really, really interesting to see the work you guys are doing. It's incredible work you guys are doing over there.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you for everybody for joining us. Oh, good. Sorry.
No, I would like to thank you for the Jay, after you say after you finish, can I put just I forget, but I think it's important to put video. It's 3 minutes just to close the conversation.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's awesome. So real quick, let me just say thanks to everybody. So thank you to everybody that joined us today and everything like that. Thanks for stopping in. Tomorrow we're back with Jack Fishman from Project Aware at the same time and everything. Make sure to tune in for that. We'll see you all tomorrow. Martin, I'll let you show the video so we can close it out like that. Thank you again so much for joining us, brother.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for inviting us, and it's a pleasure to communicate what we do.
Awesome.
So I start the video, Jay. Can you let me know if you can hear the sound, the music?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Awesome, man. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks
Yeah.
for being part of this today. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. Have a wonderful day. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thank you so much, Martin. Take care, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Take care.